basically the final presentation of mine, which I'm really just going to quickly go over the way forward. We've already discussed it a little bit about consortium and other vehicles. We've already discussed why the shipping industry might need it, and we already have said that shipping industry has financial problems. There's large shippers that are making less margin or going out of business, like Hanjin, and the margins are smaller. So if there's a way to effect cost saving and eliminate fraud or mitigate fraud, then we have a potential solution. Also, as Maren talked about earlier, connecting, as the shipping industry gets more and more connected to the internet, there's huge potential for cybersecurity threats. The blockchain itself, as I mentioned earlier, is a distributed network, and the way the world is developing and industry is developing, and the use of more machines and communication between machines, it's sort of a natural evolution of networks to go to a more distributed system. The sort of potential use cases that we are exploring with blockchain and shipping include the smart bill of lading, which we already discussed, and trade finance involving letters of credit and ways of financing trade. Other potential use cases, cargo tracking and provenance. So basically knowing where goods originate and being able to prove that to the members of the supply chain. So whether that's suppliers or receivers. And also cargo tracking. The container industry is starting to make strides in this area with Maersk turning containers into smart containers. I think it will become easier and easier to do this as the technology develops and IoT, machine-to-machine technology develops. There's also another area that we see potential is in actually registering ships on the blockchain and creating a history of the ships from birth to death. And that reputation can be utilized by insurers, by people who rent the ships, by registries, sort of the larger registries like Marshall Islands and elsewhere. It also, there's a problem in shipping with ships that are stolen or something happens to them and they change their name. This could be potentially one way to mitigate that. And also automating systems. This was, Connor put this into my presentation. He's really into sort of robotics and sort of, self-driving cars, self-driving ships. So there is potential for the blockchain to have a role in that. So the technology requirements that we believe are absolutely essential for adoption of blockchain in these areas is that it's open source and a global standard, as well as the IoT systems themselves. Scalability is key. Obviously, one of the problems with blockchain right now, today, at the moment, is scalability issues. The question is, there are efforts in every blockchain to increase scalability. There's a number of initiatives. Bitcoin, which is the Lightning Network, and Ethereum, it's sharding, which is basically splitting the database, and also what they call state channels. Which blockchain is an important question. We are trying to be agnostic. We're trying to look at a number of different blockchain options. One is Ethereum, Hyperledger, Bitcoin, and another's one that many people don't know about is called Chain. Now, obviously, with the Ethereum is still very much like Bitcoin in the sense it's still, it doesn't have transaction speed that, or the international speed that will, at this point, but there are initiatives to try to bring it up to scale. Hyperledger already has built-in scalability, even before it went to the Linux Foundation. So, and Hyperledger is already being developed for IoT systems because there's IBM Fabric, much of the incubated code, which is being developed for, specifically for Internet of Things. And Bitcoin has its, still pretty much has, can't really go mainstream at this point, but there's a thought that with Lightning Network, it could potentially do that. Our chain is a proprietary system by a company called Scenario, and they believe that they will have an unbeatable blockchain scalability by the end of 2017, because they're using what they call infinite sharding. The sharding idea is that it basically breaks the blockchain from one database structure to multiple database structures. So not all the devices have to validate every transaction. So only the devices within that database structure have to validate the transaction. These are the different blockchain that we've covered. I just quickly, the sort of typology gives you a description of the blockchain. The type was public, private, hybrid, whether they have native currencies, and what kind of validation protocol that they're using. This our chain one should actually say 2017 at the bottom because it's not really live yet. So, obviously there are problems with Ethereum right now. They've had a lot of security issues, attempts to hack Ethereum. They have their problem with the DAO code, which caused them to have to fork and basically split the blockchain to do two different blockchains. And they recently had to fork again. Now, R3's Corda, a lot of people have heard of that. R3 is basically been engaged. It had like 48 banks that had signed up for it, and it was doing trade finance and fintech and banking finance. Now, 3 banks, key banks, have already left it for whatever reason: JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Santander. So a lot of people think that they're moving to Hyperledger because it is part of the Linux Foundation. It's open source, and it has a lot of people working on it. And has all kinds of different companies that are participating, and it already has, some enterprise applications. So obviously, the chain shipping documentation, we have to deal with custody of title and trade finance. Now, that has to involve key stakeholders in the trading industry and shipping and logistics. It has to involve governments, obviously, because we talked about customs, we talked about legal laws, particularly English law, common law. So what we sort of propose is a sort of call to action where there could be a hypothetical chain of shipping consortium involving protection and indemnity clause or insurance, namely the international group of insurers that include us, our London P&I, American Club, and other insurance, container and other big shipping companies, banks, and other sort of blockchain and shipping documentation technology specialists. So the input collaboration from all these concerned industry layers, BI clubs, shipping firms, banks, hardware and software solution providers. And as George and Henry talked about earlier, the consortium model is paramount to adoption of blockchain in industry levels, in industries. So they require actually broad market industry involvement and investment. similarly, to transfer bills of lading and other shipping documentation requires a broader shipping and logistics industry adoption. So there's sort of a compatibility there. So this is more about trusted data analysis using artificial intelligence for IoT, which includes IBM Watson, and there's a project called Golem, which basically is similar to IBM Watson, but it uses shared, it basically distributes sharing of devices. So to begin the discussion, the proof of concept would be to test run a full stack model of the application with a smart contract and sensor system on a vessel, on a cargo. And so it would require observation, reporting, involvement from all industry levels. And then we would review in the proof of concept the advantages and disadvantages of the technology and using smart contracts. Then a commercial pilot deployment would be necessary. The correction of final issues, even larger deployment to test scalability. So if you're interested in getting involved, please contact us because we know we can do this, put together much of this, but we need industry participation. Thank you.